Once, in a distant land where shadows stretched long and the air was heavy with secrets, there lived a man known only as the Hermit. He dwelled on a mountain peak so high that the village below often forgot his existence, save for the whispers that passed between the townsfolk on cold, quiet nights. They said the Hermit held a lantern that never dimmed and knew all the hidden truths of the world, but none who sought him ever returned with the wisdom they desired. The Hermit had not always been a man of silence and solitude. In his youth, he had been a wanderer, traveling far and wide in search of knowledge. He had visited lands where the sun never set, crossed deserts of endless sand, and sailed seas where monsters of the deep lurked. But with each answer he found, more questions followed, until the weight of the world's mysteries became too heavy to bear. One evening, with the setting sun casting a blood-red glow over the earth, the Hermit climbed to the highest point of the mountain, carrying nothing but a lantern and a staff. From that day forward, he spoke to no one. Those brave enough to venture up the perilous path to his cave found only silence in return. Years passed, and tales of the Hermit turned to legend. Some believed he had found the secret to eternal life. Others thought him cursed to remain on the mountain forever. But no one knew the truth, for the Hermit's cave was as quiet as the grave. One bitter winter, a young woman from the village, desperate for answers, set out to find the Hermit. Her father had fallen ill, and none of the village healers could cure him. With a heart full of hope and fear, she climbed the mountain, her hands trembling as the icy wind bit at her skin. The path was treacherous, but she pressed on, driven by the thought of her father's fading life. After many hours, she reached the cave. Inside, the air was thick with a strange stillness. The Hermit sat at the far end of the cave, his back to the entrance, his lantern glowing faintly in the gloom. "Please," the young woman called out, her voice shaking, "I have come for answers. My father is dying. Can you help him?" The Hermit did not turn around. His gaze remained fixed on the flame of his lantern, which flickered softly in the dim light. "You seek answers," he finally spoke, his voice as old and weathered as the stones of the mountain. "But answers come at a cost." The young woman swallowed her fear. "I will pay any price. Please, I need to save him." The Hermit rose slowly, the weight of countless years heavy in his movements. He turned to face her, his eyes dark and deep as the night itself. "The answers you seek are not found in the words of men," he said, holding out the lantern, "but in the light of this flame. It will show you the truth, but be warned, truth is not always kind." With trembling hands, the young woman took the lantern. As the flame flickered, her surroundings began to change. The cave melted away, and she found herself standing by her father's bedside. She saw his life, not as it was, but as it had been, a tapestry of joy and sorrow, woven together by time. And in that moment, she realized that no amount of magic or knowledge could change the natural course of life. The vision faded, and she was back in the cave, the lantern still warm in her hands. Her heart was heavy, but her mind was clear. She understood now that her father's time had come, and no power in the world could alter that. The Hermit watched her with knowing eyes. "You have your answer," he said quietly. "Now go, and make peace with what is." The young woman bowed her head, tears falling silently to the ground. She left the cave and made her way down the mountain, the flame of the Hermit's lantern guiding her through the darkness. When she returned to the village, her father passed peacefully, and though her heart ached, she knew that she had found the truth she had sought. The Hermit's light had shown her the way, not to save her father, but to accept what she could not change. And from that day on, the Hermit's legend grew, but fewer and fewer people sought him out, for they knew that the truth he offered was not one of miracles, but of acceptance. The hermit remained on his mountain, his lantern glowing softly through the ages, a beacon for those who dared to seek not what they wished for, but what was. And so, the hermit lived on, his quiet solitude unbroken, watching the world below as it spun endlessly through the cycles of life and death.